So, hello everyone. Welcome to Motivate Community Show, a place to meet spectacular speakers and thought leaders in your community. And today we are in Shanghai here with a very special guest, very close to our heart because he has been holding workshop for Motivate for quite some time and is our reoccurring guest. So I will first, as always, introduce him in short, then a little bit about his workshop. He will also share, um, maybe some little tips and tricks so that you can take away something from this interview as well if you're not going to be present on our workshop. But we encourage, if you're in Shanghai, of course, um, to, to take advantage of this opportunity. Okay, so his name is Ben Ivey, and he will be holding a workshop named If You Are Successful, Why Aren't You Happy? So I see some reoccurring pattern here because, only last week I have been holding a workshop named True Happiness Teachings. So in Motivate, in the recent few weeks, we have been having this pattern of similar things. Like, seems like if you have been on previous workshops, you are now following up, in the same train, learning more and more about similar topics and going deeper. So that's good news. And I'm always excited to know, more about this topic. So I'm for sure going to be there. So to say a little bit about him, he's the Fulfilment Artist. He's an international speaker, Tony Robbins Strategic Intervention Coach, and the Lead Facilitator to Zero Suicide Systems Nu-Rekall. His events, led by his Fulfillment Artist trainers, are now regularly held internationally, working with senior leadership teams of large companies such as Maersk, Alibaba, and Coca Cola. Ben specializes in working with successful people around the globe that despite all that they have achieved, they feel isolated, lost, and depressed. So, Ben, would you like to share a couple of words about you? Maybe I missed something or you want something to add to this introduction?
No, no. I mean, I think you did a good job of reading the bio. I'm excited to be back in Shanghai, in a few weeks' time, and then to be delivering. I think it's gonna be my 5th workshop, so I can't wait to see everyone, catch up with everyone, and I'm really excited to share some of these insights with this workshop. I think it's going to be really, really powerful for a lot of people.
Okay, so it seems that this topic is very popular right now, as I mentioned, and I'm really happy that you're going to share your experience. So is there something you would like to share now about this topic that you think it will be useful for those who feel like, I'm successful, I'm feeling like I have a great job, I have a family, I have everything I want, but I'm really not feeling happy. So is there something you would like to share?
Sure. Well, I mean, you mentioned how there's been a lot of workshops before, and ultimately, I think what's fascinating is everyone will have their opinion. I mean, everyone has an opinion on everything, right? But it's just working out how do you really find information or knowledge that you can actually implement in your lives. And for myself, the reason that I think that I think this workshop is going to be so powerful is that one of the things we dive into is something called the power of identity. And for a lot of people who are successful, who think everything's going well, it goes well until a point where you meet a challenge. And then when people meet that challenge, they either rise to the hurdle and they overcome it, or often they then have these issues that arise and they're not really sure exactly how best to overcome it. So one of the things that we're going to be diving into the workshop is about the patterns that people have in their life. So one of the things that I'll be covering is something called over-controlling behavior. What I mean by this is a lot of people find it difficult to let go of control, especially in Shanghai, where it's such a busy place. It's difficult to to react. And for many people, they get stuck in a place where they get very, very stressed. Right. I think the reason that this topic is so popular, maybe recently, I mean, I've been speaking on this topic for years, ultimately is I think people are coming into a realization that you can make as much money as you want, but if your health isn't great, if your relationship is going down, you need to have something else. And ultimately, I think people are looking for a way in which to manage their life in a different way so that they can really be happy on a consistent basis.
Right. I love what you just shared, because it feels like, no matter what is happening in your life, you need to have some basis, some knowledge, some tools that can help you when you're going through some rough times. Did I get that right?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, knowledge is something that everyone has, but whether or not you use it is something different. And I think it's a shame that a lot of people are in a stage where they go to seminar after seminar or workshop after workshop, but their life doesn't change. And it's purely because they know a lot of things, but they don't do anything with what they learn. So I think ultimately, Motivate Shanghai, as well as giving you motivation, I think it's important. I think ultimately what the workshops represent and what I've really worked on is ultimately giving people tools that they can then use in their life to move forward from that day, as opposed to just having more knowledge, sticking it in the knowledge bank and not really doing anything with it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yes, I feel like many people think, I just need to go there and be there, right? But if you are not contributing, if you are not really open to change your life, then, nothing much can change. So, what would be, in your opinion, like the first step? You just mentioned, like, also those people who want to have control over their life, they may be seeing, oh, my health is not going in that like good direction, right? So I want to control that part of my life. So what would you recommend to this person?
Sure. Well, let me just clarify what I mean by control. So the pattern of over-controlling behavior is where they want to control all the different aspects of their life in a way that's often unhealthy. It means that you don't like change. Now, I would differentiate that between someone that wants to improve their health, because ultimately we could use the terminology of control, but I wouldn't say it's over-controlling behavior to want to improve that part of yourself. So ultimately, when it comes to health, what we really want to be able to do is to understand this motivation behind it. I mean, health specifically, I gained a lot of weight, and then lost a lot of weight, but ultimately, the reason why a lot of people's health doesn't improve is, number one, because the knowledge that they have out there is so confusing, right? Which is why I think it's really important to understand who are the experts in the field and actually do what they say and are really up to date on everything. And the next thing is understanding that a lot of people have something called a yo-yo pattern. What I mean by this is they get motivation and they lose a bit of weight and then they go downhill. And then they lose a bit of weight and then they go straight back downhill. And this is a yo-yo pattern that people have in their life where they improve one area and then maybe their relationship goes down and they focus on the relationship and then the health goes down. And for a lot of people, they find it difficult to thrive in every area of their life. And that was actually a talk that I did a few years ago. But ultimately understanding the patterns of why you do what you do and interrupting that pattern will mean that instead of you having these small bursts of motivation, you can start to remove those sort of self-sabotage behaviors or things that are stopping you from really creating the changes that you want in your life.
Yes, so I feel like also like what you said, when you are all the time having this motivation, then moving one step forward, and then you see, something comes up and you go back to where you previously were, you gain weight, or, you go to the previous situation. The best thing I noticed for myself is if I have a coach or if I'm surrounded with people, that are already there where I want to be, then this helps me move forward in a more consistent way, and I really see the change. But if I'm not, consistently surrounded with this kind of people, if I do not have a coach, if I am, disconnected from them, and everyday life happens, then I see myself going backwards, right? Would you agree? What is your opinion about this?
Sure. Well, I think the most important thing to remember is you're the average of the 5 people you spend most time around. So ultimately, if you surround yourself with people that are creating changes in their life, it's going to be much easier. Now, having a coach or someone there to help you in whatever way, shape, or form that is helpful, because you can start to see your own blind spots. You can start to uncover where you're not, really reaching your potential in your life. I think ultimately having more resources to help you move forward is always going to be better for you. And I think that what you just mentioned is you found what really works for you. Being in a community, being surrounded by people, it's probably why you're with Motivate Shanghai. So it's fantastic that you've taken those steps to be able to help you move forward. And everyone's different. So I think ultimately it's understanding, how do you understand what works for you? Because ultimately, everyone is different. For some people, they like to be surrounded by people. For some people, it's one-on-one. Other people need to have that self-analysis or that self-awareness in order to move forward. So ultimately, awareness is the first step. And then taking action from there and starting to move forward and measuring what you're doing, because what you measure, you improve, can ultimately help you live a much, much more fulfilled life.
Okay, so thank you for all this sharing. And as I said, like, these are just short interviews. So is there some closing thoughts, something you would like to say to people who are thinking, oh, should I go on this workshop or not? Like, is there something you would like to maybe share as a closing thought?
Sure. Well, I mean, I think that for anyone thinking about this workshop, I would say that this would be a must to attend, purely from the identity standpoint, because I've attended hundreds of workshops all over the world, and the concept of your identity is something that when you can actually fully grasp that and understand it, it allows you to make such big shifts. And let me explain why. When someone asks you the question, who are you? Most people will look into their past or come up with something to identify themselves with. Now, if you tie yourself to that identity, it's very difficult to change and move forward. However, once you can start to shift who you think you are, and you start to become that person now, it means that you make radical shifts in your life, because you believe that you're not that type of person. So it's the difference between someone that says they quit smoking versus someone that's a non-smoker. They've integrated it into their body. So I'm really excited to be able to share some of these tools and tips to really create some impact in people's lives. And ultimately, they're going to get tools that they can take away and implement. So I'm really excited for it. It's going to be I'm not sure how many times I've run this workshop. I ran it in LA, and then I know I'm running it in the UK in a couple of months. So I think this will be maybe the second or third time. So I ran it last year as well. So I can't wait for it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay, great, thank you. And I just need to add here that what I noticed recently happening, because I am in this career development area, and I feel like many people here do have great careers, and do feel like they're prosperous, but do not feel happy, right? And what I noticed recently happening is that many people want the change, want to know how to be happy, right? And really happy and satisfied. And I think this workshop that you are going to hold for Motivate is the great step, towards this. So I would invite everybody, that feels like, oh, I want to change, where I currently am. I don't know what to do. It feels like I'm going in circles. Like, people tell me that, they do have what they wanted, but in the end, they're not happy, right? So thank you for sharing. So is there anything else maybe you would like to add, or?
Sure. Well, I guess the last tip that I'll share is a habit that I think that people that can't come should take away and really implement, and that's the habit of gratitude. I think ultimately, when you're in a grateful space, you can't be angry. It's impossible to be grateful and angry at the same time. And I think that we have a predisposition to live in a world where we're looking for scarcity, things that are wrong. And ultimately, I share this now. I'm going to share this in my TED talk in a few weeks' time. Thinking of 3 things that you're grateful for each day, at least, is going to really start to shift your mindset. So you start to think in a different way, and you can start to see that you're living in abundance as opposed to scarcity. So I guess that would be my last tip to share with people that may not be able to make it. because I think that's something that's really powerful and I've been doing for years, and it's really made a difference to my life as well as all the clients that I work with.
Yes, so thank you for this tip. And I feel like it circles back perfectly to what you were saying. We all have some knowledge or what we should do, but are we doing it? Like, are we taking the action? So we all know that we should be grateful, that we should be happy, because there are things that we should be grateful for, right? And could be grateful. But are we doing it in our everyday life is another thing, right? So developing this kind of patterns, I feel like is what your workshop is about, developing these tools, that, how to every day, take one step forward. So thank you for sharing. It was my pleasure to interview you today. And I again invite everybody to come and see live, be surrounded with people who motivate, who inspire, who can really help you move forward. So thank you, Ben, for today.
Sure, my pleasure.
And see you there. Bye for now.
See you then, bye.